So in chapter 5, we have seen so far Arjun's question about whether I should go for Karma Yoga or I should go for Sannyas Yoga. And remember, he is asking this question not in the context of the battle as to which will lead me to success in this world. No, no. He has already taken his mind far above the world to say, for moksha, for liberation, to find myself, which of the two paths should I take? This has been his question. So, if you take the example of Mahatma Gandhi ji, he was most active in the field of politics, and so you could call him a social reformer or a freedom fighter or a politician or a leader, an activist. But which of these was he? And if you asked him, he would say, I am none of these. I am all of these, but at the bottom, I am only a simple man in search of God or in search of truth. That's what it needs to be. Neither sannyas like Gandhiji nor a karma yogi, but an amalgamation of both. But at the base of it all, there is never a forgetfulness about the ultimate goal and the real goal of life. At the back of the mind, at the bottom, there is never the forgetfulness like Gandhiji. That is perhaps the perfect amalgamation. Krishna, of course, could not give this example to Arjun because Gandhiji was not there in his time. So Arjun's confusion was had then to be dispelled by some other examples, and therefore Krishna said, Arjun, are you ready for sannyas? That means, do you have the sannyasi mind? It doesn't mean a physical getting away, of course. Do you have a sannyasi mind? Which means, which we have already seen in chapter 2 already, whether you are actually samadukhe, same kritva. In sukh and dukh, can you be sam? Can you be equanimous? Are you atmannevatmana tushtaha? All these are words taken from chapter 2, where Bhagwan was describing a sthita pragya, one who remains steady in the knowledge. The pragya is the knowledge, one who remains steady. Atmannevatmana tushtaha, satisfied and reveling in himself. Dukkheshwar nudvigna manaha, udveg nahi hota dukh ka bhi. And Sthitadhir Muni Ruchyate. He has already explained all this. But once again, Krishna is having to explain as a good teacher in order to dispel the doubts of Arjun, because Arjun is a student and he still wants to know some more. So in chapter 5, we found that there are some more words used for a sannyasi mind. And that sannyasi mind is samadarshinaha, like the goldsmith who says, you are bringing me the statues of Hanuman and Lakshman and Ram, but I see them all as one. I see them all the same. Samadarshinaha. How is that? How can you see them all the same? I have revered Bhagwan Ram all my life as the ultimate, the epitome of divinity. And you're saying he's the same? Yes. I can see, says the goldsmith, I can see the gold in all the statues. That Samadarshina, the sannyasi mind, can see the eternal, infinite Atma dwelling in everyone, because that is the substratum of every creature, irrespective of caste, creed, color, sect, religion, or nationality, irrespective. And therefore he says, can you be Samadarshinaha? So sannyasi mind is being described again here in chapter 5, but in different words. And jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha, can you be one who has actually expelled all the impurities of the mind? Such a person can you be? And then we had stopped at number 20. Chapter 5, verse 20, where Krishna says, Nah prahyashyet priyam prapya, no dvijjet prapya cha priyam, sthitara buddhira sammudho, brahmavid brahmani sthitaha. It is also, the sannyasi mind is also the one who is not swinging between pleasant and unpleasant, between desirable and undesirable, sukha and dukkha, always trying to control it, not swinging and dangling between the two of them. because he just lets these things come and go, because every one of these things, in any case in chapter 2 it has been mentioned that they are agama anityaha, they are anitya, impermanent. What has come will go, whether it is sukha, elation, excitement, success, power, fame, recognition, it will go. And also despair, and also your sense of pain or dejection or despondency, depression, sense of loss, sense of unfulfillment, everything will go. These are just opposites. But who are you? I am that Atma on the surface of which, on the ground of which, all these feelings, emotions, ideas play out. That's all. I'm just the stage. The moment the sannyasi mind recognizes this, he just lets everything. Doesn't mean he doesn't experience anything of the world. The body, mind, and intellect is the field in which we experience all these things. He experiences it. But there is no reaction, because he is holding that knowledge steady, sthira in his mind, to say, oh, I am none of these. I am apart from these. I am the witness consciousness which will go beyond all these emotions and passions and lust and anger and jealousy, and also elation and excitement and love and fantasy. Whatever gives you pleasure, everything will just pass on the field on which it is playing. Okay, he holds on to that truth, that's all. And that's why not reacting becomes a habit. See, in the beginning it's hard, we forget, and then we have to remind ourselves in hindsight, अरे कल गुस्सा नहीं करना चाहिए था. Okay, later on we remember that this knowledge at the moment of anger, very good. And beyond that, what happens? Number 21, बाह्य स्पर्शेष्वसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मने यत् सुखं स ब्रह्म योगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक्षयमश्नुते. In the beginning we are told that you will have to control these kind of reactions. And bahya sparsheshtu, where are these reactions coming from? From bahya, coming from the outside. Sparsh, sparsh here doesn't mean literally touch, it means contact with the world, and that's how we are reacting. Later on we are going to be asakta, and we will know that we are just asakta atma. Bahya sparsheshtu asakta atma, that means it won't even touch us. Well, that is a long way for us maybe, but at the moment at least we can try and watch it. So when we say detachment to the things outside, do we mean only physical things, relationships and objects and events and all kinds of happenings outside? No, it's not that gross. It is actually the mind also which is interacting with the world outside all the time and deriving pain or pleasure. Mind is a sukshma body, sukshma sharir, and that also from the outside world, sitting quietly in one room, not contacting the world bodily, still derives pleasure. What are the pleasures of the mind? So you can ask any pure mathematician, the one who revels in pure mathematics, ask that person what joy, what depth of joy that person has felt in his practice of pure science or pure mathematics or choreography of dance or music or art. No matter what your pursuit, even the mind has the ability to contact the outside world and bring in the pleasure or displeasure. Don't forget, we also actually we dwell too much on all the incidents in our life which have caused us distress. It is somehow the mind has not been trained enough not to dwell on the things of the past, joyous or not joyous, and therefore we bring in through the mind the pains of the past and some fantasy of future joy. So in that fantasy also it is all meaningless. So neither the mind nor the body is in contact with the world, and therefore we are not shutting down the mind or body. Please remember, we are only shutting down the demanding mind, the mind that demands कि मुझे सिर्फ और सिर्फ सुख चाहिए और मुझे दुख नहीं चाहिए. दुख नहीं चाहिए तो फिर why do you dwell on the distress and the sorrows of the past? That we should ask the mind, right? It's our mind, we should ask. The demanding mind is quietened, that's all. Sabrahma yoga yuktatma. That person is centered in himself, and therefore sukham akshaya mashnute. And therefore akshaya means experiences unending joy. जो जिसका क्षय नहीं होता, अक्षय, उसका joy experience कर सकते हैं. And therefore we don't realize very often that ocean of happiness, that ocean of joy, which is the source, which is ourselves, our own atma, we are sitting on the shores of that ocean and then dying of thirst. Can you imagine the irony of this small little petty little life dwelling on petty little chasing of success, and also trying to repel ideas and people of sorrow which bring us sorrow? I think dying of thirst on the shores of the ocean, there cannot be a tragedy bigger than that. And it also brings me to the fact that this jantu, the creature, that is the human creature, we cannot even afford to waste one full lifetime that without knowing this truth. Knowing and then realizing, maybe some other time, maybe in this life, but knowing and realizing, without that, what has the life been at the end of the story? End of the story, it's been only khao, pio, so, and a few highs and a few lows. But then every animal goes through the whole process, that whole story. So there's no difference. And therefore the tragedy of losing a human life can be tremendous, and we cannot afford it. So what we do is we are taking our body, mind and intellect a bit too seriously, कि इसमें जो सुख लग रहा है वो बहुत रियल है, इसमें जो दुख दिखाई दे रहा है वो बहुत रियल है. We take it all too seriously. We have been told over and over again, it is nashwar, it is anitya, it is mithya, it is just an agamapa, it is just coming and going. This body, mind, intellect is just a passing shadow between thousands of lifetimes. And therefore Bhagavan explains once again that there is a small warning he wants to give us. That is in number 22. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः. A warning is not for all of us. This warning is only for those who are perpetually hunting for joy and pleasure out in the world. मुझे ये भोग करना है और वो भोग करना है, और मेरे पूरे जीवन का ध्येय is only to do भोग and enjoy. ये warning उन लोगों के लिए है. What is that warning? The warning is that you are going to adyantavanta kaunteya. All these things are only coming and going. So every joy that you experience has 4 basic flaws that we have already mentioned before. The flaws are that there is a law of diminishing returns which operates on every sukha. What is the law of diminishing returns? That the same object which gave me joy today and a few years, and maybe for a few more weeks and a few more months, after a few years it does not give me the same joy. It just is the law of diminishing returns, and therefore I move to some other things, and therefore the mind says, हाँ ये experience कर लिया, अब मुझे और कुछ variety और कुछ novelty और कुछ variation life में चाहिए. That's all we are hunting for. Some novelty, some newness, some variety of the same joys. So it doesn't make sense to go around in circles. Secondly, we have very limited capacity. How much can you enjoy? How much can this little body of flesh and bones, how much can it go on trying to extract every ounce of joy from this and that, from vyakti, vastu, paristhiti, events? It cannot. It gets exhausted. And so it's very, very tiring. This whole journey is very tiring. When you come back home after a long journey, if you've traveled abroad and you've had these hassles with passports and this and that, and there's some travel arrangements have gone wrong, suppose, and then you come back home after this so-called exhilarating, exciting journey, how wonderful it feels just to be home, back on your armchair and at your altar, to light up the candle at the altar and just be quiet and be by yourself and draw the curtains and have a cool drink. That's like coming home. When you realize that, oh, I am none of these things that the world has made out to be. And when I come home in my mind to my own Atma, it is as silencing and soothing and wonderful as coming home. अपने घर में वापस, घर वापसी, घर वापसी. And also the third flaw is that it increases your thirst, your trishna. And everything, the fourth flaw is that everything that you experience will go stale anyway, or it will become less effective, or it will die, or it will wear out, like your car is wearing out, your everything gets frayed at the ends, at the end of the day, you know. No matter how new and how shiny and how beautiful every relationship and object and new home and whatever seems in the beginning, it gets frayed at the end of it. So these are four flaws of every happiness that we have chased out there in the world, and therefore we are back to square one. This is the warning given by Bhagwan. So we need only one single ability can change all that for us. This whole mad story can be changed with one single ability. What is that ability? Number 23. Shaknoti haivayah sodhum praksharira vimokshanat kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayuktah sasukhi naraha. अपने काम, डिजायर, पैशंस, लस्ट एंड उसमें से उत्पन्न होने वाला क्रोध, दोनों का वेग जो है ना, द वर्ड इन द सेकेंड लाइन इज वेगम. Veg is actually an impulse, a strong, it's like a tsunami, it's a wave, an avalanche which sweeps you off your feet. Because जब वो lust, वो passion, वो desire जब मन को जकड़ लेता है, उस समय कुछ नहीं सोचता. There's hardly anything that we are capable of remembering. And because that seems to become our single pointed obsession. And therefore so Krishna Bhagwan says, this one little ability if you develop na Arjun, काम क्रोध का जो वेग है ना, वेगम, sayukta sa sukhi naraha, उस वेग को, उस sweeping avalanche of lust and passion and desire, it always begins with a simple desire, but it always then develops into a strong want, and then it becomes obsessive when we are not watching it. If we are not watching these simple desires, they can turn into a vegam, the word mentioned here, an impulse that then takes control, and you lose control of yourself. So can you have this one single ability, Krishna Bhagwan is saying, and therefore you are going to be in control of yourself. I'm going to cut this short a little bit because today we want to save time for discussions, and I'm going to go on to other tips that Krishna Bhagwan has given for developing a sannyasi mind and the quality of a sannyasi mind. So number 24. Yonta sukhontara rama tathantar jyotirevayah sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto dhigachati. Three words have been used here. Anta sukhaha. You can be an anta sukhaha, antara ramaha, and antah jyotihi. That's all that you really are. What is antar? This is one of the interpretations. Antah sukhaha, the one who already knows that the death, disease, and also at the end of it, all the despondency that you feel is actually not for this body. It's only for the body, but not for the Atma. And therefore, even aging. So what is the trouble? If it's only for the body, let it be. And Antara Ramaha, the one who realizes that I am only this infinite, this ultimate infinity. In that, the person seems to experience a kind of security. Do you know the number of psychological securities we demand and expect from people and situations and success and relationships and wealth? Yes, I must have such an amount or even bigger amount in the bank so that I feel secure. All this is psychological security. The moment you realize, oh, you are only an infinite entity, this is the ultimate security, then the mind actually stops demanding security and psychological dependence from the world. Probably that is one of the meanings of Antara Ramaha. And Antah Jyoti is that you find your own light, your own recreation, your own joy, because you are an ocean of Anand deep inside. So come back home. Come back to that ocean. Sit quietly by the shore of that ocean and dip your feet in it and realize that, oh, this is you. When you come back home, how कितना सुकून लगता है. तो वही है, वही ज्योति आप में है. हम क्या ढूंढते हैं बाहर? शारीरिक सुख चाहिए, ठीक है, और फिर हमको भावनात्मक सुख चाहिए. भावनात्मक मीनिंग आई वांट सम इमोशनल एंड साइकोलॉजिकल हैप्पीनेस फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड. इन टर्म्स ऑफ अटेंशन चाहिए, accolades चाहिए, approval चाहिए, and why isn't anybody giving me any attention, recognition, approval. ये सब psychological हमारी भावनात्मक ज़रूरतें हैं. But they are, mind is also जड़, mind is also material. And so bodily wants and mental wants, there's nothing sacred about mental wants. Psychologically भावनात्मक भी हमको उतना ही जकड़ के chained रखते हैं. And वैचारिक सुख also we have a kind of intellectual dependence कि हमको ये ज्ञान हो जाए, वो ज्ञान हो जाए, इनको पढ़ लें, उनको पढ़ लें. Yeah, that's okay, fine. But that is of course the highest kind of desire, because beyond that you have to go, because you are none of these. These are all transient. Transient यानी temporary. शारीरिक, भावनात्मक, emotional, वैचारिक, intellectual, they are all temporary. At the end of it, you are only one unending Anand. And therefore this word Anand is very difficult to describe in any other language, especially English, which I consider a very, very clumsy language in comparison to the finesse and the sophistication of Sanskrit language. But be that as it may, this is where we are with a sannyasi mind. Going ahead, Bhagavan says in number 25, what can I obtain if I obtain such a sophisticated, such a fine mind, which is not dependent on any of the sukhas of the sharir and the bhavna and the vichar? What will I obtain? What will I get? The American mindset, what's in it for me? So Bhagavan says, number 25, Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishiyah क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः. Such a mind labhante brahma nirvanam. Of course, such a mind will obtain the freedom or moksha. Of course, that is the highest goal, to obtain moksha, because his sins will have been destroyed. Kshina kalmashaha, and therefore he will not be torn by swinging between pleasant, unpleasant, desirous, undesirous things. He will not be torn between the two. He'll be one integrated whole. And therefore, he then can be intent on the welfare of other beings. See, now Bhagavan has started giving a few hints about how even to turn the mind outward. If your mind is turning outward, turn it towards Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Let it dwell in trying to help someone else, in bringing some joy or happiness or security and support or comfort to someone else other than yourself. This selfish being is actually causing a lot of trouble. So there was Swami Ranghanath ji who was asked about this, and he said, जब मैं आँखें मूंदता हूँ, Swami Ranghanath ji, he said, जब मैं आँखें मूंदता हूँ, I find only peace and peace within. And when I open my eyes and I look around, my only question is, how can I help you? What can I do for someone else? This is the exact opposite of how many of us live. Most of us live by asking in every relationship, how will I gain from this? How can I bring myself some joy, some attention, some security, some comfort for myself through this relationship or event or object? That's how the mind, whether we agree to this or not, it is ingrained and it is buried deep in the subconscious mind. Unless we have the capacity to bring it up from the subconscious mind, examine it and annihilate it. Kshina kalmashaha, kshina kardo, attenuate it, just destroy it. That capacity. Otherwise, yes, it's there in the subconscious mind. And kalmashaha, what is kalmashaha? The impurities? Well, you can remove it only, the evils, only by and I'm coming back to sadhan chatushtaya. my favorite sadhan chatushtaya is the fourfold qualifications. Your vivek, to know the difference between real and unreal, and the vairag, dispassion and distance from all the things which are unreal, which is actually everything, and then the mental and physical disciplines of the mind and body, and titiksha and forbearance and shraddha and samadhan, the ability to stay with that knowledge, to do dhyan, and finally the most important qualification, the thirst for moksha. These are the things that we do in order to remove the kalmashaha, which is mentioned here. So this is what a sannyasi mind can obtain. Going ahead, he says, how do they gain this kind of steadiness, this almost superhuman steadiness? So number 26. काम क्रोध वियुक्तात्मा यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्म निर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम्. विदित आत्मनाम, विद means to know, आत्मनाम जो अपने आप को स्वयं को जानता है. For such a person, the vague meaning the impulse, the rush, the wave of kamakrodh is now not going to touch. See, in the 23rd verse, he said, try and fight off that wave, that vague of kama and krodha, desire and anger. Here he is saying, yes, a sannyasi mind can go even beyond that, become kama krodha viyukta, become independent of it. See, there's one step, one level up of going to the sannyasi mind. And we can't jump from the higher to the lower. We have to first watch it and then try and control it, and then we can go beyond it. That's what is promised by Krishna here. The self-controlled ascetic is the only one who can Brahma Nirvana, who can gain that ultimate knowledge. Okay, if that is the case, then is it meditation that's going to help me? Is it karma yoga? Is it sannyas? So far Bhagavan had been talking in chapter 3 about karma yoga, to steady the mind, to make the selfish mind selfless, because karma yoga means I am only doing it so that somebody somewhere can be benefited. I am only the instrument and the actor. That is the mental attitude of a karma yogi. That is to become selfless. Gyan has already been explained in chapter 2. He says, you are that eternal entity, and therefore no karma can touch you, the Atma. But yes, karma phal will come to the body. And what about this last, the 5th chapter? He said, sannyasi mind, creating that distance and control and steadiness. Okay, and how to do that? So at the end of every chapter, there is a preparation for the next chapter. That is the way of our ancient scriptures. And now we are going into meditation as one of the techniques, because chapter 6, which is coming up, is completely devoted to meditation as one of the paths, and in such detail, 47 verses, such detail that it's almost like as if Ashtang Yoga of Patanjali has been explained beautifully in chapter 6. So introducing that topic, Bhagavan says in number 27, Sparshant kritva bahirbahyam चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणपानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ. Pranayam, Patanjali Yoga pranayam is mentioned in the second line. Nasabhyantar, that is attention on your breath. Sparshant kritva bahirbahya, sense control, bringing in, gathering yourself in from the scattering of the mind and body out there in the world, just gathering yourself back to yourself. Chakshush chayvantare, eyebrows, bhavon ke beech mein, eyebrows ke beech mein apna dhyan lagate hue. We are not going into the details now because this is explained amply in chapter 6, but now we have been introduced to how to get to that sannyasi mind. So meditation is going to come up. So also in 28, Yatendriya mano buddhihi munir moksha parayanaha vigatecha bhaya krodho yamasada mukta eva saha. All that it says is, in this state of meditation, at the seat of meditation, your senses, your mind and intellect are all as if in one line, not scattered in different directions, all controlled. And therefore, they are free from Sada Mukta Evasa, they are free from desire, fear, and anger. So now at least Krishna Bhagwan has given a hint to us to say, what are these things which make your life miserable? What are these enemies, these three enemies, which hiding within you are creating a hell within you and torturing you? And those are our enemies within us. So they are desire, fear, and anger. And for this, Patanjali Yoga, or the art of yoga and meditation, coming up in chapter 6, will explain that it is yama, niyama, dhyan, dharana, all these in detail. So Bhagwan will say how we can dispel the effect, the impact, the vague of desire, fear, and anger upon ourselves. So we can see here that the students of Vedanta here are not just flirting with utopian ideas, with just flirting with some philosophical, very pleasing philosophical percepts and ideas. And no, there are practical and very practical steps which you can find only in the Gita. In all other texts, in Upanishads, etc., only the harsh truth, the hard truth, the rock bottom truth has been explained. Take it or leave it, whether you understand it or not. But in Gita, which is why Gita is so popular, Krishna Bhagwan with a lot of compassion says to Arjun, okay, I will handhold you right through the process. I will also show you the practical steps of how to get to that ultimate truth. And that brings us to number 29. So about Dhyan Yoga, he explains, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva ma shantim mrichati. So result is what? That you are going to realize you are only Sat, Chit, Anand. Kahan dhoond rahe the apne aap ko? And that eternal principle will be, you will be the enjoyer of that eternal principle, knowing that all these the practices that we have been doing are steps, slow and steady, only towards that one single eternal principle, the ultimate reality. That ultimate reality does not change through the ages, through time, through gender, through caste, creed, color, religion, nationality. It does not change. And like we have said, this is only a statement of fact, that there is consciousness. Like a physicist will tell you, there is gravity. Don't believe it, it's okay, you can jump off the plane and you will figure out very soon that yes, he was right, there was gravity and now I'm heading towards earth. No, this is only a statement of fact, and therefore it doesn't change through the ages. And that's why we call it the universal truth, which has been stated in all the major religions of the world in different words, in different language, in different maybe even different methods of explaining. That brings us to Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Namaha Panchamodhyaya. So that is the completion of Karma Sannyas Yoga. The topic was Karma Sannyas Yoga. But here I am tempted to read to you what I have learned from chapter 5. And maybe when we open up the discussion, you can share either questions or statements of how you have one takeaway or one pickup point from chapter 5. I put mine in the form of a share this morning. So forgive me if it's a bit clumsy, but these are my thoughts. ता उम्र हसरतों को कुछ यूं सवार संभाल रखा था, ता उम्र हसरतों को कुछ यूं सवार संभाल रखा था कि खुद से खुदा को जुदा यूं ही बना रखा था, खुद से खुदा को जुदा यूं ही बना रखा था, कि बेसाख्ता खुदा का पैगाम कुछ यूं आता है. बेसाख्ता मीन सडनली खुदा का पैगाम, अ मैसेज फ्रॉम हिम, कुछ यूं आता है कि मैं दरिया हूं तू दरिया ही, मैं दरिया हूं तू भी वही, ये रंजिश मिटाने आता हूं मैं. In fact, Krishna had also said that yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuthanam dharmasya तदात्मानम सृजाम्यहम, मैं तभी आता हूँ जब तुम ये भूल जाते हो कि मैं भी दरिया हूँ, तुम ही दरिया हो. दैट वननेस, दैट आइडेंटिटी, अपना सत्य, अपनी आइडेंटिटी, मैं कौन हूँ, अपना अस्तित्व जब आप भूल जाते हो, मैं आ जाता हूँ. तो एक लहर की मौज गुरूर ऐलान करती है विथ अ लॉट ऑफ प्राइड. देयर इज वन वेव, एक लहर, हर लहर नहीं, एक नहीं, हर लहर की मौज गुरूर ऐलान करती है अपने होने का, कि मैं हूँ, मैं कुछ हूँ भाई, मुझे देखो, मुझे पहचानो. और हर मौज पर सागर अपना तारुफ, इंट्रोडक्शन, सागर, हर मौज पर सागर अपना तारुफ फिर एक बार करता है. द सागर कीप्स इंट्रोड्यूसिंग हिमसेल्फ. अरे भाई, मैं आत्मा हूँ, मुझे पहचानो, तू भी वही, मैं भी वही. लेकिन हम भूल जाते हैं. तो ये थी my takeaway, and now I open up for discussions, which was requested very nicely by Vijaya ji yesterday. Hari Om.